This is a Global Energy Network podcast.
Today we're joined by Jason Brown, CEO of Elementz. Jason, can you just share who you are, what it is you do?
Yeah, I can. So Jason Brown, CEO of Elementz. And we're an industrial software company. We've got a focus on our mission really to protect the world's subsea infrastructure through and religiously subsea focused on inspection and integrity solutions as well. Yeah. Been going for quite a while now.
Yeah. And how did you get into this? When I look at your LinkedIn and stuff, you started as a mechanical engineer.
That's correct. My first job was actually with IBM.
Okay.
Yeah, I kind of lost when you graduated in the 90s, it was like, nothing as bad as we're seeing at the moment, but the downturns and the upturns or whatever. Yeah. So I thought, am I really going to go in for engineering? So let's go and work for IBM, which was a great experience. And I found myself back, with tech again after this. So
what were you doing with IBM? What was your...
I was called a runner at that point. So I was running the line. I was picking up laptops and computers, building them, burning them in at that point, and then getting them out the door. So that was a great experience, yeah.
Yeah. And where did you grow up?
I was born in Greenock. But brought up in Port Glasgow.
Because I heard you mention a chipper. So I thought, well, you must be from somewhere at that way.
I'm going back down tomorrow, so that's my go-to place. Yeah.
And what about the entrepreneurial side then?
I think that's just being in the right place at the right time and seeing what opportunity is. You hear all these, I was determined I was going to be in a startup or a scale-up or whatever, but everything was just lending itself to this is the right time. This is the right time to do it as well. And when you've got a bunch of people and customers, most importantly, willing you on to do that, that's kind of when you make the jump. Yeah.
So did that come through? Obviously, you were with Aker for a long time, and then they had A's. So did that come through that? Did you identify that opportunity there, or?
Correct. It was almost like perfect strategy with something hanging out there. So I've had my hands on some bit of this software. It was called Cobus back in the day since about 2012. Yeah. When I was still in operations, maintenance, asset integrity management. Ace comes along, great for us. Yeah. And starting to see, that focus of all these little bits of software coming together. And then Ace quite rightly have a one product strategy, which is the visualization and stuff like that. So this bit of software was sitting out there. Yeah. And we thought this could be a good opportunity. Not just me, but the Aker guys, the Ace guys going, why don't we try and spin this up? Yeah, speak to the customers. They go, great idea, we'll support you. So we hit the ground running.
So why did Ace then though have that? Was it they wanted to remain fully focused on what they were doing?
Focused.
Even though they knew there was an opportunity there?
Yeah. And it kind of makes sense when, we're a subsidiary place as well. So if you're building and what they're doing is really hard. You can see it now, the visualization, the things that they've got to do, AI coming in there, you're going to need that whole team focused on that. Whereas us at the side going, okay, let's see if we can spin that out. Yeah. That's quite a good thing as well, because if you're building subsidiaries or an ecosystem around you, let's see if it can work. And then, the guys higher up are going to look at it and say, that's a good idea. That's a success. That can be a model.
Yeah. This isn't my questions, but just a thought then. Since this is a spin-off of A's, which is kind of part of Aker. Yeah. And you were within the businesses, if Elementz wasn't to be a success, would you have went back into A's or Aker?
It's a good question. It never crossed my mind once.
You knew it was going to be a success?
We kind of knew we had a good chance. Before we did our homework. So when you go out and you're speaking to, some of the world's energy majors and they're going, we'll support you, you kind of know you've got a good chance. Yeah. But it's the same as everything. You don't know till you go into it. But never had a lot of fear about doing it. More for the people who were coming along with you, who are having almost like a safety net, but on back in.
So in the first year, you were 2 million revenue. Yeah. How the fuck does that happen? Because I've been running lots of businesses and I've never once achieved anything close.
I think so we wake up, if you think it's a smaller part of the company. Yeah. And we wake up and we try and do one thing really well. Yeah. And understand where we fit in a big workflow. So if you wake up and you say, that's what we're going to do. We're not going to take over the world. We're going to do this really well. Try and be the best at delivering value. That kind of resonates with your customers. Yeah. So your customers have invested a lot in their legacy systems, their ERP. If you come in along and say, we're going to sit there, nothing's going to change. We're going to do that really well. Plus, we kind of future-proof you, so we'll spend the right money on the back end, how we talk to your world. That kind of resonates as well. Plus, it's difficult. Offshores on these vessels are difficult. So kind of happened by, we had customers who didn't come with us came back Yeah, it wasn't about money at that point. It was about, okay, this seems like the right solution. And then we've been quite lucky, with we're everywhere from St. John's in Canada down to Perth in Australia. So that resonates as well.
The global side of it.
Yeah, the global side, which can be tough, when you're doing it from Aberdeen and you've got time zones and differences. So we've been lucky, but you got something that it is what it is, nothing more, nothing less. And you've got a whole bunch, 20 plus customers supporting you, becomes easy to sell. Yeah.
What about growth then? How do you grow? Is it growing the client base offering exactly the same thing, or are you
different? It has to be different now.
Yeah.
So born in oil and gas, but we'll transition now into other verticals. I don't want to use that word when I explain what I'm going to say next. So we've been very oil and gas
focused.
Yeah. We're now moving, and there's still big customers for us to get, so we'll do that. And we're unashamedly by oil and gas. There's nothing wrong with oil and gas in this environment. But we'll move horizontally. So the same problems that we see for renewables, for example. So you've got infrastructure there below the waterline, you've got cables, etc. Defence, power, telecoms, all need inspected as well. So we'll move from a very vertical oil and gas into a horizontal solution as well, and try and solve the same problem. So that's what we'll do for the next couple of years.
And have you started that already?
Yeah, we have. So we're going to split our product this year. So we've got a product that looks after your core, which is your surf and your pipelines coupled together. We're going to split it. Okay. So if you wanted the linear stuff, you'd have to buy the main product. Completely different. So it's opening up this market for us as well.
And a different client base?
Different client base as well. Same problems, but different client base. So we've done our homework. That's what we were doing last year. We go into the board, we look at the customers, and we've got Compass as well advising us, this strategic board of customers, and they say, split the product. It's the best thing that you can do. Yeah.
And how many people you got?
We're up to 30 from Wednesday. So we moved to 30. So different set of problems when you move from that.
And how was that scale up been like over the years? So you started with how many?
We started with 12.
Okay.
In 2024. Yeah. And just grown gradually as a business needed as well. Automation helps a heck of a lot. I mean, it's a simple product, one to many. Yeah. It's not binary that we've got more customers, we need more people. So
with tech improving then, do you think that you won't need to have the sort of headcount maybe when you in 23, 24 when you looked at this?
That's what we're hoping.
That'll have reduced your plan, maybe changed.
Yeah.
More spend in the product rather than
more spend in the product. Yeah, less on the headcount, and automation is just key. We'll always talk about, we can lose some money here or we can lose some money there, but reputation we can't afford to lose. So it's still having that people in the loop for your customers, particularly in customer experience, customer operations, but automating a lot of the stuff that frees those guys up. So that's
quicker and better for the client, I'm guessing, as well, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
And for an asset integrity perspective, what does Elementz do to support the subsea sector?
Yeah, so if you imagine the whole asset integrity, if you like, cycle, you've got your strategy, where you have your baseline of what we're going to do, you're then into planning, you then execute the inspections, get your results in, and you review them and kind of optimize. So we're that framework. So we allow the operators to have that framework in place, but then also connect to other tools that are out there. So the clever bit of what we really do is offshore. So we're part of a dive spread. Yeah. It's a ROV support vessel. So we're installed in that as well. Okay. And if they're finding anything, we're overlaying that. We're taking the grabs, the media, storing that, and then that's transferring back onshore as well. So almost an end-to-end process, but it's configurable rather than customized. So that's back to this one-to-many model.
And is it difficult to sell that?
Not really.
No?
Not really, because it's mission critical. Yeah. It's pretty tough. Yeah. Without it, you're back to terabytes of video, media, spreadsheets, etc. It's also transfer. So if you're an operator and you cut a 2-year deal with one of the IRM providers, if you cut a different deal in 2 years, you're not losing it, because we're working with so many operators and so many other
transfers there, you've still got access to it.
And to be fair,
would that happen before you would lose it?
You would lose the experience, or we call it the tub of doom. You might have hard drives full of stuff, right? Yeah, or spreadsheets. It's on Jimmy's spreadsheet, and he knows this inside out. So it's transferable. It's all in the cloud now. Yeah, and that whole, if you like, every inspection, every point of data kind of compounds. Yeah, because we're working with so many different people. So it's starting to become almost like a standard. When you go out and say you need 3.4U, for your inspectors, you also need Elementz in there as well. So it's given that kind of...
So it's almost built in.
Yeah. And if you've got so many proof points when you're selling back to that point, it becomes easy, because the operators are still, quite rightly, they want something that works and they know it works. Yeah.
Because this is tried and tested.
Yeah, because their behaviours aren't built on habits. You know, their processes are what have kept them safe and productive for years. So you need to slot into that whole, we call it a blue digital ecosystem. So that ecosystem thinking is why it's not easy. If it was easy, we would be, you know.
I'll read it. Yeah, you're a lot more competition.
A lot more competition. A lot more competition. That's a good way for that.
And then for like you mentioned, spreadsheets and different things, digital transformation, something we've been talking about now in this industry for years.
Yeah.
Or just in general.
Yeah.
And you mentioned spreadsheets and everything else. Do you think sometimes when people talk about digital transformation, there's not really much transformation there? It's just kind of taking the same old shit and tarring it up to make it look nicer?
I think it's tough. I think they're into, you know, the aspirations are terrific or have been terrific. They're still terrific as well. But you've got to flip the model. Yeah. So the traditional way is, okay, that looks interesting. Let's go and get our hands on that. Let's train a few people and then try and deploy it. And that's where it kind of sinks, because tiebreaker is what we came up with for that as well, around the AI. But it can be applied to digital transformation. They're not in at the start. So would you trust the tools that you didn't help build?
Yeah.
They're not validating it. So AI is kind of stumbling a little bit, subsea as well.
Yeah.
And are you going to cut a deal with a startup? It's not going to cut a deal with one of the majors. So this, we call it this opaqueness of validation, security, procurement. Yeah. So unless you get deep pockets, you're not going to go. So you need to flip that model.
Yeah.
And then you need to flip that model with more of the operators. Yeah. So every pilot that fails is wasted.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's more and more of it. So it's almost like fatigue in the industry for digitalization and AI. So you go to your CFO and say, well, that didn't quite work. You're on a shorter lease.
Yeah.
The bar becomes higher, so it becomes tougher and tougher.
But also becomes tougher for the next company to come in trying to offer a service, because the guy's experience has been shit.
It's been poor. Yeah, it's been poor. So flipping that model, Compass or getting the operators, and this is just one pathway. This isn't me selling this to you, whatever. The more operators working on common themes, so you get standardization. We'd hate that word collaboration. Co-creation is a much better word. And skin in the game for those guys. So everything they do compounds. So they're not doing it in isolation. Everything they do is a set, you know, view in mind, which is, let's get this in the field.
And how is that going so far?
It's gone really well. Yeah.
And how many companies are?
We've got 7 now in Compass. Yeah. So 7's pretty good.
Yeah.
And it's not an elite set of companies, but it's a set of companies that think that kind of way. You know, they think like a product company. So it's not, that'd be a nice feature. That would be, they focus on, well, what's the best for the mass of users? What's the most value? Yeah. And where can we actually change the dial? Yeah. So that's happening. There's a lot of energy to do that. And I think it comes from that fatigue, you know, just fatigue about the whole thing in the moment. Yeah.
And for companies starting up then, you mentioned off camera, you know, you guys turned out 2 million in your first year, looking at 4 million this year.
Yeah.
How easy is that to achieve if you're a startup company in Aberdeen or in Houston or anywhere else?
I think it's tough. I think it's tougher in the UK. I think it's tougher in Scotland. You know, we've got to relax a little bit the funding mechanisms that these guys have.
Yeah.
And I think we need to come up a better way of the operators, and that's not just the oil and gas, but the energy operators actually working with these startups as well. Or we're small. When we kind of stepped up and says, listen, we've got 20 plus commercial agreements.
Yeah.
What if we de-risk that for the operator? It's that important word, no risk. And what if we bring these guys through? Yeah. So they're working in industry standard security, you know, procurement channels, the way that we code.
Products are validated or approved.
Before. So, you know, integration of these products isn't an end thought, it's designed from the start.
Yeah.
Commercialization's designed from the start. So if we can do it and we were 2-3 million, why can't we do it on a bigger scale? Yeah.
And I guess the end clients are operator clients with deeper pockets. It's not as if you're trying to supply to another service company or a tier one. So the contract values are going to be bigger.
They're going to be bigger, but they're getting squeezed as well. Yeah. And it's back to that fatigue. You know, if you're going to say, well, we've got this really cool startup, big ones, we can talk about autonomous vision, you know, we've got AUVs. But the AUVs need to learn what they're looking at. So it says that's a defect, an excursion, an anomaly, and I know it, so trusted. So they're kind of squeezed as well, if that makes sense. So it's about understanding the operator's pain points and try and de-risk it that way, back to that word. But also what the startup needs, and it's not necessarily money, it's data and validation that these guys need.
If you get opportunity to get a case study, maybe.
or the opportunity to go straight to commercialization.
Yeah.
Rather than.
And why do you think it's harder here? Just because of the financial constraints, or?
One's the funding. So, but if we take that out, I think what we're seeing in the North Sea is just tight. Mm-hmm. It's just tight for a startup. If you were a startup, would you focus on subsea integrity and inspection management?
Well, not here.
No.
But you can see that the companies who already do it here, who have tried and tested and have a strong global supply chain, are also looking at where else they can go. They're trying to move away from here.
Yeah. So I think it's a lot tougher just because of our policy.
Yeah.
At the moment, and we can chat about that as well. It just doesn't make sense. Doesn't work.
Yeah.
And to me, what's worrying me is we start pushing our startups in Aberdeen South, a lot of the Central Belt, because that's where we're focused. Even worse than that, we start pushing them
internationally.
Internationally to the States. Yeah, which seems to be, it's a lot easier to get cash, for a startup, particularly if you've got something sexy around AI, etc. So that's my biggest worry. Yeah.
We'll come back to the UK, but what's your thoughts on AI in general? Because it's, I'm no techie at all, but I use AI literally every day.
Yeah.
And you hear of things in schools and healthcare and everything that's changing the world. What's your thoughts in for the energy sector?
Yeah. So in general, it's a great tool. Yeah. AI, picking the right tool, realizing where it is hallucinating or what you're going to use it for, but your day-to-day stuff that you would have trawled through, terrific as well. If you look at manufacturing, healthcare, logistics, it's changing the dial completely. Mm-hmm. Self-driving cars, there's a reason why it's been successful. Everybody's auto manufacturers, universities, tech companies building each other's models. It's almost open to do it as well. If you look at the energy industry, we aren't doing it that way. So we're, I am company X. Yeah. My data is important to me. I'm going to bring AI and kind of do that. Yeah. What's going to happen is the model doesn't compound. Yeah. So if you think if that was company X plus 1, plus 2, plus 3, and
it's building up
of data.
Yeah, that library is growing.
Then
I spoke to, most companies we've spoke to have been quite positive about AI and the potential for it. Again, some it's more about asking the right question or leading it with the right prompt so that you get the right information out. But one of the companies we did speak to did mention something similar, and that was protecting their IP.
Yeah.
And if you put it into AI, it's then potentially available for somebody else.
It is and it isn't. So we've worked with the Data Lab, and they're up for an award soon. I think it's May. They put themselves forward because they were quite proud of this. We've worked with these guys to come up with a trusted research environment. So that doesn't mean that it's just data in there and you pull it and you sign a bit of paper and you say, "Dear Kenny, I will promise I'm not going to use this data anywhere else." You build your code inside that environment, so it's locked down.
Okay.
As well. So if you do that once and twice, 3, 4, that goes away for them as well. So you're starting to trust that, okay, your data is important, but we need your data to compound these models. So if you learn on company X and we start expanding that, you're going to get fundamentally better tech, better software as well. So we need to do it.
So how do you encourage companies who are scared to do it for losing their what they've spent maybe millions and millions of pounds on?
Yeah, same way when you were back to how do you sell? You speak to somebody that's been in the program. So these Compass members we've got, and again, this is just one pathway. Go speak to them. Yeah. The reason they're still there is because it works for them. So they're getting value out of it. Obviously, there's competition law, etc., but the way they're speaking to each other is it's shared problems, it's shared vision, and they know that whatever comes out of that model isn't just their own data, it's other people's data as well, but their data has been protected as well. But the only way that it's going to change the dial is more data sets, more people involved, more people building, and try and compound, back to that word, compounding the models as well. Yeah.
And the 7 companies that are in there so far, how have they done so far?
They've done, so the 7 companies are the operators, so we've got 2 in the cohort. Yeah. So 7 operators in there, been terrific.
Everybody's seen the benefit for
everybody's seen
for the setup,
Yeah, so for these guys, they're not spending money, it's important. So they're spending time, which is just as important. Yeah. They're choosing the themes, what's important to their business, they're agreeing, and then they're picking the participants. So there's 2 participants at the moment as we start it. And we started really with the startups to say, okay, can we help Aberdeen, the Scottish startups, which we can, to see how that works. The pressure, or not pressure, the opportunity we've got now is the bigger players. So these 7 companies, operators, have bigger partners, now they're now talking to us to say, right, how can we play in here? How can we get involved? And what's the benefit of them? A lot of companies are developing tech to give them an edge over their competitors. That's great. What if we could commercialize that cool bit of tech back to autonomy? If we can get something that can analyze terabytes and terabytes of media and use that and then sell it as a plugin.
Would that become like another Elementz or another Ace or another?
No, it would just be
its own thing.
Its own thing. We would plug it in, we'd enable it. Yeah. So whether you're big or small, we can enable that just through this tiny little bit of software that sits in the workflow.
And you've got that global client base to push it to.
Yeah, to push it from.
And then going back to you, so you mentioned come Wednesday you'll have 30 staff.
Yes.
So how has that been for you to build that team?
I've been so lucky because the people who came were invested, you know, in the product. Had been out there with the customers as well. And then slowly. So what kind of got us where we started won't get us where we're going. So we've been lucky enough, particularly in the dev side, to just attract the right talent at the right time.
And what are you recruiting day to day? Is it software developers or?
It's a mix. So the focus has been obviously in the development team, but then I move into commercial product and security, always security. So your security posture as you develop becomes important because you're dealing with majors.
Yeah. And how easy has it been to attract staff?
Really easy so far. Yeah. It's getting tougher now.
Yeah.
So as we're in the market again for full stack developers, Aberdeen's becoming tighter.
Yeah. I've always thought Aberdeen was quite tight for software developers anyway.
We've been quite lucky, to be honest, but now it's getting tighter and tighter. You've got the hybrid working that helps, so we can go a little bit as well. But I'm a fan of having
people in the office
a couple of days a week as well, particularly the younger people, because that's how they get their experience in development as well. But we've been okay. But the message at the moment is we're out. Last couple of months it's tighter, certainly tighter than ever.
And what's your sort of leadership style? How do you run the team?
Pretty listen to what I'm told to do. Which is quite refreshing as well. So obviously my job is to, always think, and I think that's the hardest thing about leadership's not fall for the short term and not knee jerk and always, stay in the long term. Yeah. I've been really lucky because the board and I'm surrounded with don't come in and mess around. Yeah. So they give you a year. So if you say that's what we're going to do in December, we get to December, January, we review it. So I've been really lucky so far that
we're hitting the targets.
We're hitting the targets and the bets that we're making are coming off and the strategy's paying off as well. So I'd like to think kind of like that. That's the way, these guys to get on with it. I really only get involved if something's chewy, something's not going well, or a bit of advice as well. Doesn't mean I'm sitting like Diet Coke and stuff every day because you're trying to guide that, but I'm really lucky. It's been an enjoyable experience. That's the one concern I had, that I didn't think that this would be half as much fun as it's been.
Yeah. Just as you come back to that then, were you always going to be CEO of this company, or was there an interview process for that?
No. I think it was... No, there wasn't an interview, but celebrity, when you asked me, how did you do this? I had a chat. It was more we had a chat. Yeah. Looked at the numbers, give me it, I'll go away.
But this could work.
This could work. And
so was it a case you kind of ran with the project for the early days then? Yeah.
So we had nothing, we had the idea, some numbers, and then the whole branding, the whole ideas, this is what we're going to do. Yeah. And I've been lucky, with Prospect 13 and those guys to kind of guide me the way to do it. But we had nothing at the start. So that's an experience, always that startup experience, but we always knew, we had, surrounded by supporters in ACE, ACCA, and back to the customers.
And you had a sellable product.
Yeah, and that's it.
And then I think in the past, and you talked there about taking bets, so sort of fail fast mentality. What's your view on that?
Absolutely. I think it's the most difficult thing is to let the team pancake.
And is there a time in the short number of years with Elementz that's happened, or you've had to maybe move sideways? Or
it happens every week.
Yeah,
every week. Happens every week. If chief software engineering officer was here, would tell you. Yeah. A couple of weeks ago, we've got a problem with the back end. That's not working. We come up with some. We think this is pretty cool. We put it in front of friends who are testing. Nope, that's not working. So and
is that something you're doing all the time? You're testing lots of different.
Yeah, lots of different break and builds, we call it as well, and we break more than we build.
And
it's just the fact of
is that the norm in the sort of software industry? Is that?
I would suggest so. If you speak to other people in sort of industrial software and they tell you they're not failing, I don't believe them. Yeah, don't believe them. Fail fast, and the hardest thing is to get used to
fail before it becomes commercial.
Correct. Yeah, but you have stuff out there as well where you have bugs and stuff, and you've got to fix stuff as well. Yeah, so it's never ending.
Yeah, and then away from building the team, dealing with your board and everything else, what are you doing to de-stress for that?
Oh, music, art, literature. That's where you find me.
Yeah.
Happy in 80s indie rock, cabby. Quite happy in my misery with that sort of stuff. Yeah. And obviously friends and socialising and stuff as well. It's always good. Yeah.
And then I think like, I don't know where, but sort of art-wise, sort of Pollock is the abstract art. Do you think that helps for an engineering mind, or?
I don't know. So was a pretty good engineer. I wouldn't say I'm an engineer anymore. But probably being left-handed, being brought up, you know, when you're in the 70s, early 80s when you're left-handed.
I'm left-handed.
Yeah, so you're not as into me, but I used to get
you get whacked for that?
I used to get whacked for that as well. So there was always a creative side.
Yeah.
Really helped me being an engineer.
I think I'm quite creative. I think I'm quite creative, but I can't visualize things, so I need to see it first before then I can make changes to it. Yeah. So I'd be a shite engineer. But I would just be sitting there with fuck all to build it. Somebody need to build it for me first, then I can maybe start ripping it apart.
That makes sense. Well, I've always enjoyed creating stuff for that as well. And when I do art now, you're doing it for yourself. Yeah. So that's really helpful. See, when you're doing something for yourself and you don't attach emotion to whether it be a PowerPoint or whether it be a piece of art or anything you've done, that's quite a nice place to be. Yeah, quite a nice place to be.
And then you mentioned the UK government side of things. So what's in policy? What's your thoughts right now on how we move forward here in the North Sea?
Yeah, number one, it makes no sense to me. So we see the geopolitical situation now.
Yeah.
I don't know, we all follow FUBAR and stuff like that. And you're hearing stories of people queuing in Aberdeen for petrol and diesel. And you kind of go, it's not right. But that's going to happen.
Yeah, something saying it's like 188 or something this morning for fuel.
Yeah, so it doesn't make sense. We still need oil and gas. That's a given.
Yeah.
We want to transition. Everybody does. Yeah. But we're going off a cliff edge at the moment. We've got oil and gas reserves. Mm-hmm. Every other country with oil and gas reserves is...
We've got operators ready to drill.
Yeah, they're utilising it as well. So why we're not doing it is beyond me. Yeah. Now, everybody, we do want to go at net zero. Everybody does that. Until it starts really hitting the honest Joe, and it's starting to hit people now. Yeah. So for me, it just doesn't make sense. I'm also worried, you hear me talk about the 90s when I graduated and goes, I'm not doing that. Yeah, we're going to lose more skill. Yeah. We're going to lose more. You've still got operations, maintenance people, integrity people, inspectors. They won't, where will they go? Yeah. Yeah, they'll go to a different basin. Yeah. We'll start to lose them. And that starts to really worry me. But back to the policy, it doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense. If you put it through a bit of AI and say, does that make sense? No. Yeah. And I guess another thing is, if these companies are looking to use, for a renewable side, if they're looking to use the supply chain in oil and gas, that supply chain just won't be there. By the time that they're looking for them, they'll already be in Asia or the Middle East. Yeah. The kit won't be here. The capabilities will not be here anymore. Nope. So... And the fact that we're still importing a huge amount tells you that we need oil and gas. So the maths just doesn't add up. Yeah. The morals don't add up. Yeah. It doesn't add up for communities. And now back to that FUBAR thing, we're starting to see it hitting the pump. So it shows you how fragile we could be. Yeah. I remember I worked for a Norwegian company and have done for many years. And you see the difference in policy and you just go, why are we so different? Yeah. Well, they're just soaking up for the same basin as we're not. Yeah. You know, that makes it quite difficult to comprehend sometimes, I think. It does. It's difficult. And more worrying when you have a company of, where is your company going to end up? Yeah. Are we going to be Aberdeen? Are we going to have to move Central Belt? We need to open offices, that's the truth. We need to open something in Asia Pacific or Australia. I spoke to a company on Thursday or Friday last week and they told me they were currently reviewing whether they remain here or move to Singapore, because the majority of their business was Singapore. I think they had one steady client here
They were getting bits and pieces here and there, but one steady client with an ongoing project in the North Sea, and all the rest of their businesses in Asia.
It's terrifying.
I'm thinking, why are we operating here?
It's terrifying. Yeah. For the first time on LinkedIn, I've seen rope access guys, not level 1s, level 2s, level 3s looking for work. That never happened.
Yeah. Well, I guess maybe a benefit of the current high oil price is the companies are making money, and there's been no RIM work done here for a long time.
Yeah.
So I would imagine these assets need to still produce for still a long time, that there might be some maintenance work done over the shutdown season this season, what you would expect to be probably busier than the last couple of years.
There was a lot of campaigns last year in Europe and certainly the North Sea.
Yeah.
We did 65 plus mobilizations across all our customers as well. But, there's still a lot of talk of decommissioning. There's still a lot, you look at Harbour's results at the moment and you kind of go, okay, this just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And you would have thought this was the opportunity for our government to go, okay, it's not the first thing they would have U-turned on.
Well, the war in the Middle East obviously gives them that opportunity to U-turn without any massive backlash.
Yeah. So why not?
My biggest thing with the whole North Sea thing, I'm obviously for Aberdeen, for Glasgow. Same as you're not for Aberdeen either, but when I grew up, I wasn't even aware of it. I knew 2 guys who worked on scaffolding, so I didn't know anything else. And nothing that makes noise up here, I don't think makes noise elsewhere. So I think when you think you're making lots of noise in Aberdeen, maybe the chamber shouting for a review of the policy or the local press, when you go much further past Forfar or Arbroath, that noise disappears, and I think people still here think that they're making so much noise that the government's going to make changes. But the reality is, a lot of what people say and what oil and gas does for everything, and what it produces and all the products that it's used for, to the rest of the people that are not involved in it, they're oblivious to it.
Do you know?
And they're unaware, completely unaware.
That's a good point. And I've probably been so immersed in the offshore teams, I hadn't thought of it that way. But yeah, you're probably right, because I'm used to...
Everybody you speak to is in it. Your families are in it.
Yeah, even when, the places I was going downstream, whether it be Teesside or Wilton and places like that, they're in it. They're absolutely in it. So but no, it's interesting. It's interesting. And it's I mean,
but I don't know how you change. I don't know how you change that. I saw Serica Energy did a really cool video at one of their assets, and they were trying to make it aware how many people and how many lives in different parts of the UK it would actually change. And that's probably the first thing I've saw out with, Aberdeen shouting, that I thought actually that might actually get other people aware of actually just what this industry does.
I think it's a great point. I never thought of it that way, but I probably surrounded everybody I speak to.
Well, I'm the same.
And then when I go down the road, that's the last thing I want to talk about.
But if I speak to family down the road, they couldn't give a shit, and they're absolutely clueless. They're just like,
it's so true. But it's a good point.
How does a scaffolder offshore make 50 quid more than the guy on the street? That's what they're interested in.
But surely they'll, when you look along the Central Belt or up to Inverness and stuff, they're getting hit now. And the pumps, something about food, this is fertilizer, etc. So shouldn't get to that, but that's back to that. Here's an opportunity to say, right, we are vulnerable. Why we're not pushing this?
Or try and take that back from, because I think people would think that's due to the war. So and obviously it is, but taken for the energy sector to take advantage of that and say, well, this is why that's increasing. Correct. This is where we could have been different.
Correct.
That might help.
Yeah, but definitely. And I don't know if you've spoken to anybody else, but it's that this doesn't make sense to any of us.
I think one of the best people that when we spoke of this was ages ago. It was Davis Larson for ProServe, and his thing was, we shouldn't have a government come in every 4 years and set an energy policy. We should have an ongoing energy policy that is agreed on and it's followed through, so that in 8 years, 12 years, 16, we're still following the same process. We're still moving forward, whereas it just comes in, ripped up, start again, ripped up, start again. How can you move forward like that?
I think that's a great idea. I also think when it comes down to something as critical as energy, you wouldn't send a guy who'd worked in retail all his life offshore, as I know I am.
No.
So why would you give a guy who's never been in the industry the plum job?
Yeah. I think as well, I spoke to a couple of people, one operator and one decom, CEO of decom company, and they were saying before the government were voted in, they obviously sent a analyst up here to speak to companies and understand the North Sea to build their policy. Or their what do you call it when they get what they're going to use to be elected. And they said it was one guy, and basically what he put forward is what it was based on.
Policy.
So it's just this, and that, I don't know what that guy's background was, or if he was pro-green or whatever, pro-renewables rather than a open-minded person. Who knows?
I think everybody, it's strange whether they go, are you pro this, are you pro that? We're pro-energy and energy security. I think we're all agreed. There's nobody going to say this isn't the right path, but the gap is becoming wide. We're going to fall off a cliff edge. And if it's back to that, we have the reserves, we're vulnerable, we're importing. There's no, I can make it through that economist, answer of what we should be doing. It just doesn't make sense.
And then looking at it globally, you guys are doing business everywhere. I saw your team in Australia the other week. You're in Asia. You were in where were you the other week? You were another European event.
We were in Lisbon.
Lisbon. So you guys are covering the full scale of the globe. What parts of the world are you seeing as where the opportunities are?
It'll be South America. Obviously deep water, South America, Africa. Asia Pacific as well. So they're continuing, with
Asia seems to be massive, especially for a lot of the Aberdeen supply chain. I was speaking to a company the other week who said in the last 2 years, Taiwan has become 40% of their revenue,
which is incredible.
It's insane. And then from there, they've got a base there. One of their Aberdeen teams went out, set up the office there, and they're looking at China, Vietnam, and the rest of Asia from there. It's massive.
Pertamina and these guys as well.
Huge opportunities
as well. So deep water is still there. It's difficult. Ultra deep water is still there. But it seems to be moving away, not even from Europe, it's the North Sea. So it's back to that.
Well, you mentioned Norway's busy.
Still busy. And you've got a bunch of customers in Norway as well.
So if you went back to being a 20-year-old mechanical engineer, what would be your advice to somebody in that position now?
Stick with it. Stick with it.
Persevere.
Learn to code, learn the tech around you. So we were lucky enough when we were at university, you used to have to code. So anything you were doing for analysis, you were on top of it. Now, quite rightly, that's a different discipline, etc. as well. But get used to the tools of what you're going to do as well. I think the best advice would be go and see the world. And go and
this is a great opportunity to do that. It's a great industry for that.
Go and see what there is out there rather than, I was downstream. This is before I went offshore, and I was lucky enough that that's my career. I'm coming to the end of my career now as well. So I was really lucky. I'm not saying engineers, we need engineers, not just AI and computer science. We've got to build this stuff, we've got to fix this stuff, we've got to maintain it. And they're creators, but see the world. Don't get tied down by anything. Don't try and be any other thing except yourself, but go and see the world.
And what's the plan then for you and for Elementz, say for the next 3, 4, 5 years?
So we'll go for a horizontal platform. We'll try and move first on that. We'll try and build the pieces of this ecosystem, because I believe that there's no winner. As that makes it, we're all trying to build pieces of the same thing. So why do you have to do everything? Find the right partnerships, go for the long term. Hopefully the right decisions are made as well. So we'll try and go for that whole blue economy where we see it as, the right places. Undoubtedly, we'll have to open offices across the world.
And for yourself, will you be part of Elementz in 5 years from now? Is that what you see? Or
I don't know. I keep saying, does anybody want to be CEO?
You try to pass it off.
I'm sorry.
You want to go see the world?
Goodness me. That was a pretty good interview. I'm also a fan of, if you've got a leadership team, it should be, somebody's got to be accountable, but there's, this kind of model where it's run very flat. There's almost like enablers and doers and stuff, and I still like doing stuff as well. So 5 years would be a long time for me, unless there was something, as I say, we're going somewhere else or some direction, because
Maybe driving the international side of it.
Yeah, we are doing something different, or taking the product and being, a subsea AI app store or doing something else. Or
And is there potential for it to kind of legs everywhere, see what comes?
There is. As long as it's within, there's always been this core strategy to build in little bits all the time. So so the question is, well, where do we want to go? So if the board's supportive, the group's supportive, then we could do anything. But there's also a thing of whatever I didn't achieve, that becomes somebody's 100%. So you're always thinking what's best for the business. And you as an individual, but 2 or 3 years, if I'd done most of it, that little bit that could change it, so that becomes somebody's 100%. Not, as you said, you rip it up and
start again,
different direction, but a set of energy.
Yeah. And if you sit in a bar with anybody you could sit and have a drink with, who would it be?
I quite fancy Stephen Fry. Let's see what he's got to. Yeah.
That'd be an interesting chat, I would think.
Yeah. Or Serene McKellen, let's talk about, I'm a great, huge Tolkien fan, so let's talk about Lord of the Rings. Yeah.
Perfect.
Jason says a footballer or something, but I get you into too much trouble.
We've had Trump and everything over here.
Controversial.
Yeah, perfect. Jason, thank you very much.
Just
appreciate it.
Perfect.